most people that comes in,
This meeting is being recorded.
more participants that come in generally, right?
Yes, so during the last session with Ruma, we had around 30 participants.
Okay,
Today I can see there's
12.
around 11 without
Okay.
Nikat, you and me, there are 11, I think.
Acha.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, Nikat is there.
Yes.
So we'll start with putting them in groups, and as the others come, we'll keep putting them in groups.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Sonia, can you share your screen, because I'm losing out my screen if I'm putting up the slide.
I'll share that. To start off with, if we can switch on cameras, if it's not a connectivity issue, would be nice to see people and talk to faces rather than black boxes. Thank you. Thanks for switching on the cameras. So before we get going, what we've got as a starting for today is that there's a little activity for you all to do. 4 stories or poems that are there. So we'll put you in different breakout rooms, divide you into groups, and we'll share the link for the story/poem. Could quickly read it. We'll give you 2 questions based on the story that you need to discuss among your group. Consolidate your ideas and then come back. Okay, better now, I think. We'll give you about 10 minutes and then we'll come back quickly and discuss, and then we'll move forward from there. Okay, so I'll just share screen. Oh, yeah, but there's like, okay, is this showing up?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see the presentation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, but I need to like get out of the. Okay. Anyways, so Meenu will put you all in groups, and Meenu, maybe you could tell them while you're putting them in groups who's group 1, group 2, and then we'll come in and we'll put the link for the story in the chat on that group, and we'll put the questions also there. So once you get the options of moving into groups, please move into the rooms and we'll follow you all in and give you all the required information. Okay?
Yes. So we will be having 4 different stories and poems, and we have separate questions for each one of the article. I have just pasted the document link on the chat box where you can access all the stories and poems. Depending on which group or which breakout room you go into, please read through that story or poem, and the slide will be up. So please refer to the questions that are there for your group and you can continue the discussion, consolidate all the points, and when we're all back together out from the breakout rooms, we'll discuss each one together. All right. So just
yeah,
give me a
Meenu, you all can also ask for help. So one of us would, anyways, both of us will keep moving between the groups, but in case you get stuck somewhere, want any clarification, just ask for help and one of us will pop in and clarify. Okay. Yeah, Meenu can put them in the groups.
Yeah.
So I'll just stop sharing screen in the meantime. Yeah, go on.
I'm just reading out who is in which group. So group 1, we have Smriti, Manasa, Asha Kumari, and Navjot. In group 2, we have Somali, Harim, Kavita, Namita, and Saranya. In group 3, we have Srilekha, Parul, Sushi, Anjali, and Indu. In group 4, for now, we have only Sangeeta and Manisha. As in when someone joins, I'm going to keep them added to your group.
Okay. In case more people come and new people pop into your groups, please update them on what they need to do so they don't feel lost. Okay, we'll see you all soon then.
Yes. Priyanka, are you just joining? Priyanka, are you able to hear me?
I've forgotten. How do I go to a different room? All my Zoom training is finished. Breakout rooms, yeah, I found them. Okay.
Okay. Somali, if you're able to hear me, you need to accept it and then join. I'm just going to try and reassign you to a group. Please accept that.
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you, but I'm not able to join my group. I am in group 2.
Okay. I'm trying to put you to a different group. Just see if you're able to join there, okay?
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now I am able to join.
Okay. You can please go ahead.
Okay, now I don't have the link to the that page. Minu, need to share that one of the groups didn't. Minu, Nikat, do you have access to that link? If you have, then just put it on the chat. No, I lost it because I left the room.
Yeah. Hi. So, I'm asking. Yes, ma'am. I'm texting menu separately. So
Okay.
that-
Nikat got the link, okay?
She did not see. People has Minu did not see the message.
Navjot, have you got a room to go to? Were you already allocated a room?
Yes, ma'am, I'm in room 1.
Okay.
I
I'll
just joined from the laptop actually. Earlier I was there.
okay, it's not letting me
I-
put you back in room 1. Maybe because you were already there. Yeah, it just gives me options to put you in the other rooms. Okay. Indu, you're getting an option to go into the room. Indu, can you hear me? Nikat, if you're here, I'll just go to the rooms and come.
Yeah, you can go, but I need to leave because I have another work.
Acha, theek hai, I'll stay here, then no problem.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
If you want to
Hi,
go
Priya.
and come back in 5 minutes and 10 minutes, that's I'm staying here.
No problem. They're finishing in 2 minutes anyways, because they'll all be back.
Okay, okay.
Hi, Priya. Have you just joined or have you, did you drop out of the call earlier?
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I was busy in some lecture, so I just come in.
Okay.
So shall I?
So,
Yeah.
no, everybody's in breakout rooms. They're doing a little activity, but they're going to come back in a minute now. So I'm
So
not
I'll-
moving you to a room, and you
I'll
just wait
wait?
for them. Yeah, wait for them here.
Sure, sure, ma'am.
Coming back in a minute.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Vinita. Have you just come in? Oh, she's left already. Minu, will you be able to share screen? Should I share?
Can you share, Sonia?
Yeah.
Because I'm not able to access the chat if I'm sharing the screen.
No problem. Where? Okay. But I need to do this first. Okay, everybody can share, can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So should we start with group 1?
Yeah, ma'am.
Quickly, like, consolidate your ideas, and one person can tell us what the discussion was like. And if the others feel something's got missed out, please come in and fill in. Okay, group 1.
We were all in group 1, Navjot ma'am, Asha ma'am, Mansa ma'am, and I was in there. So I'll just put in what we talked about. There was a story about man and eagle. In short, that man tried to change that eagle about the appearances he had because he thought that he was ugly. So what the questions were like, what if you would like to change or adapt? The second question, I could not see the first question right now. The second question was something about change and adaptation. And we all agreed about the one thing. We could not take Asha ma'am's opinion over there because the breakout room got closed. That we all agreed upon adaptation is more having an upper hand over change. Because as Navjot ma'am told us that change is yes or no. but adaptation is, accepting oneself and accepting others. So adaptation always has an upper hand. So as a teachers, we should adapt what whosoever is on our class and adapt ourselves also as a teacher. So adaptation is more. And the first one was if he knew about more about eagle, would his perception or would he appreciate or try to change? So we all agreed yes. If he knew already that he was an eagle and he needed his beaks and claws and everything to survive, so he would have not done what he did to the eagle. So we obviously, if we know about the child's background, if we know how his mood is, what is the family background, what has happened in the morning, is he feeling good or bad, then our perception of him will be different. So this is what we all discussed.
Anybody else from the group wants to add anything more? Okay, let's move to group 2.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi.
This is Namita, and I'm representing Group 2.
Okay.
Most of the members could participate, but if there is someone who could not participate because the breakout room was dissolved,
Yeah.
so we can bring in their point.
Yeah.
So, for us, the task was the crayon box that talked. And in the first question, it was, do you think the picture would have been as beautiful? So our answer is no. Every color is unique, and with the splash of all colors, the picture was beautiful. And for the second one, do you think people with different capabilities should be separated? Again, the answer is no. And grouped based on their identity, and we all agree with no. I mean, they should be grouped as one single group, because everybody's contribution will be unique, and the uniqueness is the identity of every individual.
Okay. Anybody else wants to add on from that group? Okay, let's move to group 3.
Parul, will you speak?
No, Shilekha, you can go ahead. No.
Okay, I will answer the first question. Second question, you will answer. Yeah. We had to read this poem, If All Trees Were Oaks. What we generally discussed was that one size does not fit all. Yeah. And if everything is the same, it becomes monotony. There is no, it's not very pleasing to the eye. Each one of us has different strengths, different weaknesses. Adapting is something that is very, very important, but you should not push to change it. And the decisions that you take are based on your perception and the situation as it warrants. Similarities will be there, but we need not be prototypes. We need not be prototypes. We will all not be placed, at the same point on the graph.
Okay.
We have to have our differences.
Okay.
It is something that we need to understand and appreciate. Accept our differences.
Okay.
Second question, Parul will answer.
So when we were talking about assessments, so like what we discussed was like when everybody was giving examples, the picture that came to our mind was that inclusion poster where there are those animals lined up and the teacher is asking them to take up a test and, climb up the tree. So most of them could not. So if we don't understand the diversity of the classroom, be it a disability or be it first generation learners, unless we differentiate not only the way we teach, the way we assess, the way we do the check for understanding, we are not doing justice. And that's why these are the children who will never be able to, match that benchmark that particular school or the grade would have, or the expectation, the norms that are set, and hence it results in the dropouts. So the assessments against I think the benchmarking is something that we brainstormed on.
Okay.
In fact, ma'am, I'm Anjali. I would like to add a line over here.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the assessment part, and I did believe that when you have the diversity there in the class, you need to first of all assimilate that diversity, and then build the connection, because assessment comes afterwards. Unless and until you have the connection being built up with the children who are from diverse backgrounds, you cannot measure this, assess the child or the efficiency or the functioning. And for that, I was talking to Parul also, ma'am, that we need to have the assessment of the teachers also, because it is not the assessment of students. It should be the assessment of the teacher, like how is she basically accommodating and adapting herself in that diversity.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Anyone else from the group wants to add something? Okay, let's go with group 4 then.
Go to Italy and end up in Holland. It's an, I guess, allegorical version of someone who plans to have a typical child in a pregnancy and then ends up having a child who is atypical in terms of development. So the question one is it more, if it's more popular, do you think people should resent it altogether? Now, we said, obviously, the answer is you shouldn't resent it, but it takes some time for people to accept. So when a parent gets to that level of acceptance, they will be able to see it. And also that society causes a lot of this, and parents many times are responding to what society is putting up. So at times it's probably only human for them to say, oh my God, I wish I didn't have this. But obviously it takes over a period of time, and for every parent, it's going to be going from denial to acceptance is going to take its own time. But once they accept, one of the teachers was talking about this student that they had in class who needs help going to the bathroom in grade 9, and the parents come and hold the child and take him to the bathroom and have completely accepted his needs. The second question, do you think it's the fault of people with disabilities for the difference? Obviously, the answer in theory is no. Paper is no. But the group also shared that many times, no one's going to say that to your face, and it's obviously not. But the way people act can sometimes feel like it is the fault of maybe the parent and the child that they're not able to do it. So in theory, no, but in practice, it shows up sometimes. And that was also where we talked about how now things are changing a little, because while Priyanka was sharing about how she was teaching a child with difficulties in her class today, and how the children themselves were quite empathetic and working towards it. So hopefully we will get over that. We also discussed how sometimes people do say it is karma. The parents, what they did, you didn't do this when you were pregnant, that comes up. It could be genetics. So there are things that people do try to assign blame to, but it's more the parents and the situation around. Very rarely is it to the person who is, who has the different abilities.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wants to add anything more? Okay. Excellent responses that you all have come up with. So on one count, when we are talking about inclusive education, just to foreground, that yes, we largely are talking about children with disabilities. And reason being that within the marginalized groups, this is the most marginalized group. And if one understands how things work for a child with disability, you will start understanding what it's like for anybody who comes from a marginalized group. Once you understand the kind of provisions, accommodations that are needed for a child with disability, and you start working towards those, you will also be working towards accommodating and making provisions for the other marginalized groups. So on some counts, children with disabilities is kind of like a placeholder for all marginalized groups. You can, carry what we are talking about to the other marginalized groups only, and not necessarily restricted to children with disabilities. Like right now, Group 4 said that, the attitude is something that's important, that culturally we are prone to presume that, or we kind of get into the thing to say that, okay, a child with disability is because you didn't do the right thing during pregnancy, or it's your present karma or your past karma, or things like this. Now, anything that goes wrong in our life, we say karma hai. It's because of our past, whatever, bad deeds, sins, that this has happened. So this is what I'm trying to say, that if you understand how things work for a child with disability and get conscious of it, you can just transfer that knowledge to the other marginalized groups that are there. Before we get into talking further about how one works with children with disabilities, just briefly looking through the classification or categories that are there of children with special needs. So there are two sides to the spectrum. And when we talk about children with disabilities, we end up mostly focusing on children who we believe are on the deficit. So a child with autism, a child with physical disability, a child with intellectual and developmental disability, on all counts, something that we are looking at that's missing in them. Now, different countries have different understandings of what they call disability, what they are, their policies are defining as disability, and the provisions they are hence making. So we've recently, within the Indian context, moved to include many more. From 7, we've gone to 21. Within the South Asian context, kind of understanding of disability is similar. But if we look at the global north, they will also be looking at aspects of emotional issues that are there. Behavioral issues also will classify as aspects of disability. Within the Indian context, we're not even looking at those. Within the Indian context, our understanding is kind of restricted to physical disabilities and the intellectual ones that are there. Sushi, you want to come in and say something? Okay, so like I said, there's the whole understanding of physical or the intellectual ones that are there. I'm not wanting to get into too many of the explanations of the kind of disabilities that are there, but then there's this whole learning disability aspect and the neurological diversity also that exists. So, and then disability, or this aspect of disability, doesn't necessarily mean that there is only one condition that the person is dealing with. So I could have ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I could have autism with it. I could have a reading issue, and with that, maybe I could also have an OCD that's there. OCD being obsessive compulsive disorder. So it can be a combination of things. It could be a single thing. Many of these are on spectrum, especially the non-physical ones. They are on a spectrum. So not necessarily everybody will have the same characteristics, the same intensity of the disability. On the other end is also the other spectrum of disability is also gifted children. And like I said, we are always constantly talking about the deficit aspect and students who we consider to be deficit. But there is that other section which has got like an excess of something, creativity, excess intelligence, who are the gifted children. Even a gifted children needs as much attention, even a gifted child, sorry, needs as much attention as a child with a disability, for the reason that the minute you're not considered to be part of the normal, either side of the spectrum that you might be in, will bring with it a set of characteristics which will term you to be the non-normal person in that environment. And the minute you are termed as a non-normal person, there will be issues. There will be issues of adjustment. There will be issues of emotional competencies. There will be issues of bullying that they will be subjected to. So there's no saying that only those who we consider to be deficit are the ones who we need to focus our attention on. Even those who are in excess of things, sorry, will be students that will need equal attention that is there. Now, largely within the South Asian context, there are certain specific barriers to inclusive education that exist. And these exist, again, they exist on various intensities across, but largely within the South Asian context, you'll find these kind of issues. So we've grouped them into these 4 categories: attitudinal barriers, accessibility barriers, aids and appliances barriers, and the ICT and assistive technology barriers. Now, an interesting thing to note is that for a child with disability, it's not just the parents, not just the teachers who might not be very accommodating of the child, but also the parents of these so-called non-normal children who can become a problem. So one example would be that I have a child with a disability, and I'm very conscious of my rights, and I know that the government says right to education. At least in the Indian context, there's right to education, which means that my child should be having access to a mainstream school. Now, I put my child in a mainstream school. The teachers are forced to take the child because the management says that there's no option, the law requires you to have this child in the class and the child is going to be in the class. But now that my child is in the class, I need the teacher to be open to, work with me. I need my peers to be open to work with me. I need my peers' parents to be open to work with me. So instances that we see in the South Asian context is that parents of normal children, of perceived normal children, will very clearly go tell the teacher, I don't want my child to sit with this child with disability because this child is disruptive, this child has a behavioral issue and will result in my child also getting spoiled. That's how it's understood. Or my favorite example is like a child with disability will not get called to that birthday of a peer in the class because this child is the odd one out. And many a times, yeah, Sangeeta, just give me a minute. And many a times it is the parents who are communicating these ideas to the children. It's the parent who has told his or her child, do not sit with so-and-so, do not become friendly with so-and-so. We cannot call so-and-so onto for the birthday and things like that. So the attitudes of the parents of these so-called normal children is a big influencing factor in the in the South Asian context. And there's research to show that in the global north, parents of these perceived normal children have an indifferent attitude. They couldn't be bothered. But within the Indian context, they have a very negative attitude. So attitudes become a very important thing. Even if the teacher wants to be supportive, if the community is not supportive enough, there's little that the teacher can do. Sangeeta, you want to come in?
That I was not very sure how to handle. There is a child who's going into grade 7 and has learning difficulty with grade 2, reading at grade 2, math at grade 3. So and they were in an IGCSE school that was not supporting them. So I asked them to consider changing the school to an NIOS setup where in an inclusive school. Parents came back and said in an NIOS school, those children will have serious difficulties and high level of disability. And will my child's psychological state be affected because she will be scared? Not understanding the level of a gap that their kid already has. How would you suggest that we address something like this?
So that is also part of the attitudinal barriers. The parents' own lack of acceptance of the difficulty that the child faces. Now, one needs to understand that this also comes because of the societal pressure. The minute I will accept that, yes, my child is not able to cope up among these so-called normally perceived children, I will be asked to take my child out of the school. And I do not want to take my child out of the school because it brings in a whole lot of other consequences. In this case, maybe, the child, yes, is not able to read up to the standard that one expects the girl or the boy to be able to read. But if the parents move the child to a setup where there are and also probably the child doesn't have a moderate disability also, it's just a mild disability. Maybe behavioral wise, there's not so much demonstration of a disability, and the girl adjusts in the mainstream environment. Now for these parents, it's of course scary to put the child in another environment where people or the other children are of moderate or severe disability. So hence they don't see their child to be able to fit in there. And many a times parents of children with moderate disabilities will be much more adamant that let my child continue in the mainstream school for various positive results. Because see, what these stories were trying to tell you, the minute you start isolating people, it doesn't work well. We had, I think, so we had a person with visual impairment who had come in for a session at our institute. And I was hoping that he won't come up to the second floor because we didn't have a lift and he had to climb stairs, and we were doing the session on the ground floor. So I presumed that, once he comes, I'll go before time and I'll receive him on the ground floor and take him to the lecture hall directly. He preempted and came much before my expectation. I thought maybe, he'll come 15 minutes earlier. He came like half an hour early or something and found his way to the second floor. And when I was told he's there, we started speaking and everything's fine. But now when I have to take him down to the ground floor, I am very apprehensive. I worked now in inclusive education for almost 10 years, but I was very apprehensive because I didn't know how to support this person go down the steps. My instant worry is like, I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to, make them feel that they're not up to walking on their own. So various things coming in my mind, and I did not want to, and that's what I was trying to avoid, that I won't have to engage with this issue of having to take him down to the ground floor from the second floor. I guess he was used to the idea, and he tells me, you just walk one step ahead of me and you put your elbow out. So I'm ahead of him and my elbows, my hands out so he can touch. And just with the tip of his finger, he touched my elbow and walked absolutely fine, because the minute I would put a step down, my elbow would move and he would know that this is a step down. So this is one of the problems that we face when we do not let the diversity, work together, stay together, study together. We don't know how to engage with a person with disability because we've been isolated. So it's not just a problem for them, it's a problem for us. We also do not, we so-called normal people also do not know how to work. And that's part of the attitudinal barrier, because my attitude hasn't developed to understand that they do not need my sympathy, that I do not need to fear of, oh, how am I going to manage this situation? I would have, even if it was somebody old that would have come up, I would have asked them, is there any help that I can give you? Can I support you in any way? Do you need anything? And that would have sufficed. But with a person with disability, that thought does not instantly come because my brain is not tuned to move to that direction. We are sympathizing, we are looking at that deficit that's there, and we are wondering, how do we behave? Either we go over protective and force our help onto them, or we are very lost and embarrassed, not knowing what to say and what to do. So understanding where that parent comes from, why the parent would not want the child to go to that special school or the NIOS school, understanding the consequences that one shift would have on the child, on the parents, on what the society would start talking about the child. So there's so much more that is playing up on a parent's mind, for a parent to accept that, yes, my child has a disability and let me help my child, or let me, give the child the right kind of support. All stemming from that attitudinal issue that is there, that this is the way the society expects you to be. And I need to work to put up that image that as normal as possible. And that's when the society will let me live in peace. So part of the community, part of the teachers, part of relatives, everyone that comes into play there. And like as a teacher, we need to understand where the parent comes from for them to react this way, and then understand what kind of support one can give and things like that. We'll get to those aspects of support as we move forward in this course. So the next issue, of course, is of accessibility. That's like an important barrier, physical accessibility on, is there a ramp? Is there a lift? Can they access the toilets? Are the toilets disabled friendly, not disabled friendly? The whole data that we get in the research is all also questionable, because it will show that, yes, there's a ramp, but probably the ramp, the incline of the ramp is too bad, and the wheelchair will not be able to, the person using a wheelchair will not be able to access that ramp independently and might need support. So on the checklist, I will say that, yes, I have a ramp in my school or in the building that's there, but maybe it's a non-functional ramp. So there's much more that goes into aspects of accessibility other than just these bits of meeting the checklist as per policies, the demands are being met. With regard to aids and appliances, a large issue that one comes across is there is gender disparity. The boys will get certain aids, the girls will not. In rural South Asian settings, people do not know how to use the aids. There's something as simple as batteries. To be able to access batteries in a hearing aid becomes problematic. They won't be able to access, they won't know how to change the battery. Lack of electricity would mean that you're not able to charge certain devices. So all of these aspects are there. And within the Indian context, there's also taxation. Certain devices have started getting taxed, which means it just costs much more now. And hence it's becoming difficult for people to access. ICT assistive technology is another aspect. One, there are issues of availability. Two, there are numerous softwares that one can use in the present day, but teachers are not aware of it, parents are not aware of it, or again, in the rural settings, there's no access to it. So there are reading apps that are there that can be put on as an extension to Google Chrome. So the child is very independent. The child cannot meet my speed of reading or engagement in the class, and the child has access to a computer through which they can read at their own pace. They can slow the speed of the reading. They can repeat the content. They can go to understanding certain specific meanings of certain words that they don't understand. But there's a lack of awareness among parents and teachers, I would say, to be able to identify what these support systems are and how available they are. So this whole understanding of the disabilities that are there, how one works with them, or to also understand that why are there these gaps that are there, how does one address these gaps, one needs to understand the models of disability, because these models of disability are what are shaping how we frame policy, how our attitudes get shaped, the kind of infrastructure that we are providing, the kind of support and provisions and accommodations that we are making. So this is a very short video. I hope the voice works and all. Quickly, let's just watch this and then we'll continue. So you all can hear? Can't hear? Meenu, you'll need to come in and do this because
yes,
here I am like, yeah. Let me just stop sharing screen.
This is Ellie. Ellie is an emu.
Yeah, we can hear, but we can't see.
He's an equal member in the bird community. One day, Ellie and the rest of the birds are excited.
I can't see the screen.
Meenu? Yeah.
She can't read.
Were you able to see?
No, we're not able to see. We could hear.
Okay.
The screen was getting shared, but then it went off again.
Okay, just a second.
Being with her feathered friends and participating as an equal member in the bird community. One day, Ellie and the rest of the birds are excited. There's a new seed box arriving soon so they can get access to sweet, sweet bird treats. When the seed box arrives, there is a bit of a problem. It's not accessible to Ellie the emu. She can't reach the treats. Ellie asks for help. Some important-looking birds in white coats arrive and explain that it's Ellie's fault for not being able to get to the seed box. Don't worry, Ellie, we are very smart birds and we can fix you. We'll make your wings like the other birds so you can fly up to the seed box, they explain. This is known as the medical model of disability. Ellie doesn't like that idea. She likes her wings and her body the way it is. She decides to get some other help. some friendly birds hear about Ellie's problem and contact her with an idea. We are so inspired with courage in trying to access the seed boxes of Flightless Bird that we're going to raise money for you. With the money, we'll buy you some special bird seed that you can eat out of our wings. The funding available will be limited, but it will solve your problem for a while, and we're sure you'll be grateful for our support. This is known as the charitable model of disability. Ellie doesn't really want to rely on other birds to get her taste bird snacks. She wants to get them on her own terms and choose when she gets it. Later that day, another bird comes along. He's a Kiwi. His name's Kevin. He says, "Ellie, we have exactly the same problem in New Zealand. You are not the problem. Society's to blame that you cannot get to those sweet, sweet bird treats. Whoever designed the bird feeder has made the bird seed inaccessible for us flightless birds. It's society's responsibility to fix it, bro." This is called the social model of disability. Ellie asks society to fix it. Ellie and Kevin wait patiently. And they wait. Nothing happens. Kevin asks, "Have you heard of the human rights model of disability?" "No," says Ellie. "Well, it works together with the social model of disability by recognising that society is responsible for the barriers, plus it gives you the tools to fix it, like a great big karate chop to inequality and inaccessible bird feeders." Ellie stares at the bird feeder for a moment, then gives it a karate kick. "Hi-ya!" says Ellie. The seed box tumbles to the ground. All the birds happily eat the sweet, sweet bird treats together. The human rights model of disability says that Ellie can use her rights to dismantle inaccessible systems and build newer and fairer ones for all. With credit to All Is For All and Dr. Roberta Francis for the original
and
concept.
courses on disability advocacy, please visit www.
Okay. So can someone give me examples to these models from a school setting, an educational setting, not necessarily a school? So there was a pre-reading that was there. Based on that and based on what you see, should we start with the charity model? How would that play out in an educational setting? Yeah, Sangeeta.
We're doing so much. We make sure that the child is taken care of really, really well. You know, it's a question of Papa, poor thing, what will the parents do? So it's kind of, and it's not even always genuine. Many times it's still on paper, but when push comes to shove, it doesn't happen. So it's the poor thing model.
Okay, that's great. The social model, anyone? What did the social model here say? What was the problem with the social model? Where is the issue?
Equality is not being done.
How and why?
Maybe the child is excluded.
Okay, from an educational setting, can you give me a specific example?
Means there might be many schools where there is lack of infrastructure for physically disabled people.
Okay.
Or for visually challenged children.
Okay.
Or deaf and dumb people in the society.
Okay.
Where schools will not be able to accommodate these kind of people.
Okay. That's, yeah, good. What about the medical model? What would that look like in an educational setting?
In most of the scenarios, though most of us are educated, many of us are not aware of the medical facilities or the medical infrastructure that can be provided to the children with who has this kind of physical disabilities, especially.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else wants to add on to that? Of how the medical model would play out in an educational setting? I have a child in my class who has visual impairment. So under the medical model, how would I work with this child? Paruli was saying something.
Yeah, we had a kid who had ADHD in a classroom. And most of the time, parents and teachers thought that it's something that the child will outgrow. So if you give therapies and if you, try Ayurveda and massages, the child will outgrow this. So it's a temporary condition and it's not something which is permanent.
Yeah.
And you will get over it.
Yeah, and there's a medical fix to it. So
And there is a medical
it's a problem.
fix to
It's
it.
like a disease that's
Yes.
there, and medically I can
Yes.
address it by
Yes.
either giving a certain aid or treatment, Ayurveda, Kerala treatment. All of those things will work, and hence it will be fine.
And it will be fine.
Yeah, excellent. What about the rights-based model? How would that play out in an educational setting?
So I'll just give you our personal example. So when we have children who are diagnosed with learning difficulties or ADHD, and when we are looking for accommodations, so we do tell parents that it's their right. It is something that the board gives. So you should, claim and push the school systems to ask for these rights. Because a lot of times schools want to shy away, and by 8th and 9th, they want to start filtering out children because they don't want to take the responsibility of, getting scribe or finding this. So we usually educate parents on what are the rights of the child with disability and why you should ask for it.
So on one count, yes, that there are certain rights that are there, and the laws, the policies give us those rights, and we can claim or demand for those rights. Now, within all of this, 1 second, let me just bring back the slides. So to quickly just okay, the screen's visible?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just like a quick relook at the models. The medical model, charity model, we all know it's about the sympathy thing. So yeah, there's medical model here, but just to briefly touch on charity, when you see a beggar on the road, many a times you're looking at people with hands in bandage, legs in bandage, folded, many times genuine, many times they're faking it. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to gain your sympathy by showing you a disability and you sympathizing on them and giving them the charity. If you go for all these Diwali melas and Christmas melas and things, you'll see counters that are specifically of candles or envelopes, handmade paper made by children, people with disabilities. What are we trying to do? We are trying to again work on the sympathy model, that we are trying to get you to sympathize and say that, okay, this is a person with a disability, let's give them some charity. You're not buying the product because you really need the product. You're buying the product because you're sympathizing with who's done it, and hence you're trying to gain some good karma by buying the product from them. The medical model, like we said, is talking about the problem being within the person. Hence, I say that this, there's a disease, there's a deficit that's there in the person, and we need to fix that deficit. How are we fixing that deficit? We are fixing that deficit by providing them with various supports that help them work to the best of the requirement of me as a society. I'm not giving them any space to be able to function the way they function best. I want them to be able to start functioning like what I perceive to be normal. Okay. The next one is the social model of disability, where we are saying the deficit is not in the person, the deficit is in the society. So like you all said, infrastructure is problematic. Attitudes of people up is problematic. We need to change those, and we don't need to work with the person. The person's absolutely fine the way they are. Now, the rights model and the biopsychosocial model, which the video didn't talk about, is a combination of the medical and the social model. So there are various variations that are there in the models, some slight alterations that are there. WHO, if I'm not wrong, in 2003 came up with this term called biopsychosocial model, which is largely saying what the rights model said, that it's not just about the person, it's not just about the society and the infrastructures that we are providing. It's a combination of both the things. So while the rights model would, say that, okay, this is what their rights are, give it to them. The medical model would say that there's a problem with the person, let's fix the problem. The social model would say there's a problem in the infrastructure, let's fix the infrastructure. The biopsychosocial model essentially says that it's a combination of everything. So if I am a person who is, I use the wheelchair, okay? The medical model is that I've been given a wheelchair. So my me not being able to use my legs is being fixed by giving me that one particular facility that's helping me move around. Maybe I'm also getting an electronic wheelchair, so I can move very easily. I don't have to put any pressure on my arms to move the wheels and things like that. The social model will say that, oh, you don't need to climb the stairs. There's a lift or there's an escalator for you to move from one place to the other. But the biopsychosocial model will say that you need to recognize that this person uses a wheelchair. That means that this person is not going to be able to get ready in the same time as a person who does not use a wheelchair. I don't use a wheelchair. I will be able to jump out of bed and get going, get ready, and step out of my house, say in 15 minutes. But if another person is using a wheelchair, they will not be able to get ready in 15 minutes. They'll need more time because it will take time from them to get up from their bed, get onto the wheelchair, move into the washroom, put themselves on the pot, get themselves off the pot, go have a bath. Everything takes more time. Everything takes more effort. You need to keep lifting yourself and putting yourself on another place. So it's going to take more time. So hence, if you say that, okay, you know, for a person using a wheelchair and a person not using a wheelchair, both should be able to get ready in 15 minutes, it won't happen. The person using a wheelchair will probably need 30 minutes. So you need to give that consideration under the biopsychosocial model. You need to understand that I could have provided a lift, I could have provided an escalator, but yet the person will need some extra time because of the physical condition. The person is going to go through more aspects of depression. They're going to face societal rebuke. People will stare at them and there are going to be emotional consequences of that. So you need to understand this particular, you know, disability and how it plays out for the person. Is what I'm saying making any sense? Okay, so ideally what we want is that we want to move to the biopsychosocial model. Within our South Asian context, we are stuck at the social model. In policy, we are stuck on the social model. In the way we as individuals deal with people with disabilities, we are stuck on maybe the charity model or the medical model. Yes, Navjot, please come in.
Yes, ma'am. I went through the text given in the course also, and now also, although it was not very clear, the models, now they are very, you know, I can see it with much clarity. But what when you were explaining also, what I feel is that we are reframing the questions. The models are talking about the problems of the these people rather than finding the solution. I myself as a teacher in the class, whether it is biosocial, you know, psycho, whatever it is, it's none of my concern to deal with these models. I don't want the names, I want the solution. What we are seeing is what when I was reading it yesterday only, I read it. There is an evolution. I read about the World War and the various practices in Africa. Why, you know, a long detail was there. But what I'm thinking is, why are we discussing the reframing the models in understanding them rather than coming up with a solution?
Okay, 1 second. There's also, please repeat. Okay, yeah, I'll just repeat the biopsychosocial one. Let me just answer Navjot and I'll go back to that. So why we need to understand the models, and you need to understand how the models have progressed over time, because the models are influencing our thinking. The models are influencing the policies that we frame. The models are influencing the kind of provisions, facilities, accommodations, whatever you want to call them. So the solution that you're talking about, of what is the solution, that solution comes based on the model that you have. The models are kind of like the philosophy that is there. Each school has its vision, mission, doesn't it? And on the basis of that is what you're working. So when you understand the models of disability, you understand where you are placed and how your thinking is getting shaped. And that will then help you to understand that, okay, you know, there's a problem with this understanding that I have. So if you are putting yourself in, say, the charity model, you are never going to recognize the person's capability, because you're always going to be on hi bichara, hi bichari. Sympathy is what you are. You will never even think that they are capable of doing the math. They are capable of clearing the 10th. We've seen in schools, children with disabilities are given tasks like opening locks and closing locks. What does this boy do? I asked in one of my studies, and the teacher says he can't do anything. He's like the guard. He'll go around the classes in the morning. He'll open the locks of all the classes. Jab class khatam ho jayega, he will lock all the classes. That's all that he can do. So this is the whole charity thing, that he's not capable of anything. The only thing he can do is this. I am training him to at least be able to survive and do something. Or kuch nahi, to when he grows up under the disability quota, he will get the job of a watchman. So how you understand disability is something that hence becomes very important, because on the basis of that is where you will start working towards the kind of provisions that are there. Navjot, am I making any sense?
You are making sense, a lot of sense, but what I feel is still, I would say the watchman thing, which I have a child who's bilkul seedha, he doesn't know anything. I also make him do things which are, easier for him to do. And but what I feel is it's high time that understanding is chalo ho gaya. But it's time that we need to implement. Just by making them stay in the school will not solve the matter. Education is the main thing that we should, put into their, be a part of. It should be part of their lives, no matter it is 33%, 40% of what I feel that in my Punjab Education Board, we have this facility. I think this will come in that model, social model, or probably human. It's a tailor-made basically. We have a question paper set up for these students of 8th class and 10th class, which are board exams here. So we have to make our own question paper for these students, which are tailor-made for them. So that it makes me happy, because we know their mental IQ. So we can set up, whether it's maths, English, Punjabi, whatever paper it is. So as per their IQ, we can set up that paper. So that's something worthwhile. I think action is some activity or action is there. Understanding models, intellectuals like you and people over here, we can discuss, no doubt. Only if we discuss, these are going to come to a social highlight or into the main limelight with educators like us, no doubt about it. But when I attend courses like this, I think I try to find the answers to my questions. Many things got clearer.
Navjot, one of the answers to the question would be the kind of question paper that you're setting for this child or the children with disability would be dependent on what you think of them and the philosophical grounding that you have. So if you go with the biopsychosocial model, you will recognize that the child has certain capabilities. You will consider those in your question paper framing, but you will also simultaneously understand that even though these are the plus points of the child, yet the child will need a scribe, yet the child will need some extra time. So you're bringing together all of those things to kind of provide the most conducive environment for the child to reach the optimal level of their capabilities. You're able to do the variation in the question paper because you do understand that, yes, different children have different capabilities and I alter it. But are you doing it with a sympathy thing to say that, ye to itna hai, 2 + 2 bhi kar le, to both hai, we will give them marks and clear them? Or you're saying that, okay, this child has this capability, let me work towards this, enhancing the capability, to recognize that the child is not able to express in by writing, but maybe they're very expressive in the way they would draw and give you an answer, in the way they would maybe, do a creative representation of what they know. So you're giving them opportunities to be able to perform well in what they are capable of without making them feel hi bichara. That is like a big thing. So hence the model again is something that becomes very important. आपको जब तक ये नहीं पता कि आपका aims of education kya hai, can you work towards providing education? The foundation to understand ki, okay, which child needs what level of content at 3 years old or in the 5th grade, this is what they will learn. You do need the backgrounds, right? You do need to understand child development. Why do we as teachers study Piaget? because the child development is helping me understand ki content kis level pe hona chahiye, kis bacche ke liye. So the models are something like that. Till you do not understand the philosophy, the background, you're not going to be able to put the solutions. It's like putting the cart before the horse to just say, okay, solutions pe chalte hain. Jab tak aap path sahi pe nahi chaloge, agar your road is not ready, you put the cart first or you put the horse first, nothing will work because the road is filled with potholes. There are big rocks on the road, so the path has to be cleaned up first. And then you need to ensure that you put the horse in front of the cart so that the cart starts moving in the right direction. So it's something like that. The grounding is something that becomes important.
Yeah, so we'll just give you time check. We have only 10 more minutes.
Yeah. So I just like quickly talk about the biopsychosocial model, since someone had asked for that. So what I'm saying with the biopsychosocial model is that I understand that the person has a health condition. I understand that the person is placed in a certain environment, and that both the health condition and the environment have a consequence on how the person is able to work. So you recognize both of these attributes, and on the basis of that, you will get going with the kind of work environment, infrastructure that you are creating for the person with disability. Is this helpful? Do you understand what I'm saying now?
Ma'am, will you please be kind enough to frame in an example?
Yeah, so like I just gave you an example that I have a child, I use a wheelchair. And because I use a wheelchair, I will need more time to get ready, to get to work, to get to school. So if there are two children in the house, there's one who uses a wheelchair and there's another one who does not need to use a wheelchair and is so-called normal, the two children will need different time to get ready. Very simple. The effort that they will put in will be different. The child who doesn't have a physical impairment will be able to run and quickly get ready, but a child who needs to use the wheelchair will probably need the mother's help, the support of the father, somebody else to help them get ready. And that is something that you need to recognize. So you do recognize that this child is going to take more time. Just by saying that, maine lift provide kar di, the child ka, the social issue, the social barrier has been addressed, and as per the social model, everything is fine, it won't work. So to recognize that there is a disability, with the disability comes physical pain, with the disability comes emotional trauma, with the disability comes the fact that this child is more prone to bullying, are things that one needs to consider. I can't say that I have an inclusive environment because I have a child with disability coming into my classroom and we accept the child is studying in the class and everything is fine. You need to recognize that because the child has a disability, maybe she is not able to make any friends or nobody wants to engage with them. So recognize the social restrictions, recognize the bearing of the disability on the child to be able to address the needs of the child. Does this help, Anjali?
Yeah, ma'am, absolutely. Thank you so much for clarification.
Okay. So yeah, we and hence when we talk about disability and when we're talking about providing provisions, the debate often moves to equality and equity. And when we're talking,
can you put the slideshow on? I think some of them are not able to view this.
Yeah, is this good?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So when we talk about equality and equity, what we are wanting when we are educating children with disabilities is that we want equity. We don't want equality. It doesn't help to give equality. So again, that biopsychosocial model, that you understand that certain children need a certain extra kind of support on certain counts, and you work towards that certain extra that's there. So if you see in the first example, this is equality because I've given everybody the same size of that box for them to be able to see. And then I'm moving to this equity aspect where I say that acha theek hai, one needs like a box, one needs double box and one doesn't need a box, and let's work with that. But when you move beyond these aspects to talk about social justice, when you move beyond to say that, okay, let's remove barriers. And when we remove barriers, we are not going to have to fret between equality and equity. Because when I've removed the barrier, that screen that is blocking the view is gone. So like the example one of you gave earlier, that if I'm judging the capacity of the animals by their capability to climb up a tree, of course, they won't be able to, because a fish in a bowl cannot climb that tree. A monkey can definitely climb the tree. An elephant cannot climb the tree. So you remove the barrier. You do not have tasks which will require them to, for us as teachers to struggle between, oh, should we be working with equity or should we be working with equality? Remove the barrier and let everybody be able to do what best works for them and the best possible outcomes that they can reach for themselves. So this whole understanding, and again, going back to why one needs to understand models and why that is shaping the way we will function and work, would be that there is this attitude of ableism. Ableism being nothing more than, like we have racism and sexism. Ableism is another aspect, or one of the isms, where we are putting our focus a lot on capabilities that are there. We are always talking about who is able to do what and who's not able to do what, and trying to fix the solution. And we need to move away from that ableistic attitude to say that, okay, the person who's not able to do it is the one who's deficit. What one needs to remember constantly is that all of us are temporarily abled. None of us are going to be with 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 eyes, 2 ears for the rest of our life. If nothing else, God forbid, you don't have an accident or any of those things, you're going to grow old. And the day you grow old, you start having these disabilities. You will need a railing to climb up. You will not be able to walk as fast as you would. You probably lose hearing, eyes will go weak. So hence we are all temporarily able, because it takes as simply as a small accident to create a disability, or progression in age to create a disability. So one needs to get out of this ableist attitude and trying to, judge children in school specifically on counts of what are they able to do and what are they not able to do, but rather have a much more open attitude to say that, okay, this child can't learn maths, which is fine, but they can do social studies very well, and let's help them reach those goals. So also, again, research shows that students with disabilities are not able to pursue science streams for the simple reason that they do not have access to laboratories, that they are not allowed to use and do experiments. So that's the ableist attitude, that I will say that a child with a disability is not capable, because that's my perception. That's the way I look at the child and I perceive the child's abilities. And the way this whole thing manifests, the ableistic attitude, it's getting shaped by the engagements that we have. It's getting shaped by the content that we put out in our textbooks. Go back and think about how much of a representation of disability is there in your school textbooks, and what kind of disabilities are getting shown. If there's a child with a disability in an image, probably will be a child with a crutch or a child on a wheelchair. So this whole understanding of a certain perfection that we put out in our media, in our content, in the way we engage in the society, are all aspects that promote a certain ableist attitude. And the demand for this so-called normal is so high that we are stuck on that perception of normal and everybody wanting to be normal. Very quickly, to just also talk about how one needs to, as educators, understand the role of intersectionality in all of these aspects. So intersectionality just being something as simple as that we are not individuals in isolation, right? The Bronfenbrenner model of the micro, meso environments that play up on us. So me as an individual, because I'm a woman, there will be certain kind of engagements that I will have. Depending on my social class, there will be certain engagements that I have. Depending on the education level that I have, there will be certain kinds of engagements that I have. To be able to speak a certain language, to be in a certain geographical location, to have a certain religion, are all things that will play up to expose me to a certain environment that's there. So if so like one of you said that the parents are not ready to move the child to a different school. That's because the environment for the child will change. and the intersectionality that the child would now have would be to probably be a girl or a boy, whatever, from a certain social economic class, and to be from a certain kind of a school. And that has a bearing on how they will be able to engage with the world as they go forward. All of us, our parents have thought of the kind of school that they want to put us in. With our own children, we think about the kind of school that we want to put our children in. There's a certain perception of the educational setting that we want. And that is because we believe that there will be a certain kind of socialization that our child will have by going into that school. Maybe school's discipline is good. Maybe the language, it being an English medium school, is something that's important. For some parents, they would say co-curricular activities in the school are very good. Some parents would say that only co-curricular activities are happening. There's no focus on math and science and, important content. So we are constantly thinking about the kind of personality development that is happening for us and our children. And hence, these are the intersectionalities. If we have more of the positives that are, fitting in with the larger public, it's easier for us to fit into the society. If we gather a lot of negatives, it becomes difficult for us to fit in a society. So if I am a woman, if I am from, say, a minority religious group, and I am from a low economic strata, I have a whole lot of difficulties to face when compared to a man from the same religion and the same economic strata. Just being a woman, I will face more difficulties. Being a woman from a better economic strata and being a woman who's educated, I will have a privilege over this other woman who's from the lower economic strata and from a minority religion. So intersectionalities also contribute to how we understand disability, how we understand the kind of capabilities people have, and hence the kind of provisions that we would go on to provide to people. I hope I'm making sense, and there's some understanding of intersectionality that you all have been able to get.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So we're going to stop at that. We're kind of also running out of time, but we'll take like a few minutes to just quickly clarify any doubts. Anybody wants to add on anything, we can do that too. Any clarifications, any doubts?
Ma'am, would we get the video and the PPT which you have just shared with all of us?
Minu, you're like the better one to answer that.
Yes. So on the course page itself, there is a section called recordings. In that, after each session is done, you'll be able to access the session there.
Lovely. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Recording we got.
Yes, the first session's recording is already up on the page.
So Binu, could you also put the link to these stories on one of the slides, maybe the first slide itself, so it's easily accessible to everyone too?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you so much, Sonia ma'am. I personally feel I could go through the content, like whatever we were being provided with. And Minu ma'am, thank you so much for reverting back. Actually, Sonia ma'am, it was all a mess in my mind because this is a new concept to me. I'm basically not working for inclusive education and all, but since 2020, NEP 2020 is demanding for it, I really wanted to, prepare myself for it. So, it was in fact, ma'am, to me, I don't know about others because all are intellectuals sitting over here. But to me, it was an eye-opener. I went through the content, but it was not, honestly saying that it was not so clear. But the moment you started talking about the models and hooked it up with the aims of education, the way Navjot raised a question, it was hovering my mind also. And the way you hooked it up with the aims of education and made it very much clear that the roadmap is essential. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm very much clear about now how things would be, moving ahead and how I need to tread upon them. Thank you so much.
I'm glad at least perspectives are, you're seeing newer perspectives. That's a good first step, I would say. So thank you for that. Okay, then if nobody else has anything to say, we'll stop at this.
Ma'am, I just have one thing to share with you.
Yeah, please.
I work in a school in Bangalore. And what you were just telling me, it was like as if you were just sharing now. It was as if you were showing a mirror to me. beginning of the academic year, somewhere towards the end of May, I was suddenly diagnosed with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, and I was wheelchair bound. And my school had shifted campus. My school had shifted campus. The old campus had a lift and had a ramp. Everything was there. This place did not have a lift, no elevators. So I was taken in a wheelchair up to a point, and then I had to climb one flight of stairs. And it was as if, when will these 20 steps get over? I am not able to. You know, I completely understand. Until last year, I had little or no understanding, or know that empathy was not there. Now I know. When I go to any building, now with medication, by the grace of God and with the blessings of all my elders, I'm on my feet. I'm on my feet, though I walk slowly. The first thing I look when I go to any space, is there a ramp? Is there an elevator? Kitne seediyan hai? Main chadh paungi ya nahi? Is there a handrail?
Yeah, Srilekha, that's just what I was saying. We're all temporarily abled.
Definitely.
It could be just for 15 days that you would, you know, break your leg and need to be on a cast and use a crutch or a wheelchair.
Terrible. And even in my school, in the new premises, they have made toilets for the differently abled, which I'm using. The, you know, every floor has a different size of the pot. It is not standardized. You know, it is like how you said, a tick mark dalna hai, differently abled ka toilet hai, haan, tick hai. But it's with, you know, that sensitivity is not there.
Yes.
And
So
we as educators, and in this educational institution, a very famous one in Bangalore, this kind of insensitivity, like, I'm shocked, I'm appalled. How much will it take? And this year, many of the teachers in the new campus, we fell sick. We needed wheelchair assistance. We needed elevators very badly. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. 2022, 23 was like a year I would love to forget.
Yeah, I hope the trauma is not too bad and doesn't last too long and you get over it all. But yeah, so also to go back to what Navjot said, solutions. As we move forward, we move to the UDL and the principles of the UDL, and you will get some of the solutions. And you'll also then realize why attitudinal change is like, you know, the first step. And once you get that sorted, then you can work towards the other steps and improve your teaching practices and be more supportive. Many times we're just doing it unconsciously. It's not that we purposely want to do it, but like you said, we don't realize because it feels like there's no big deal to it, but yeah, sensitivity helps you understand.
20 steps chad legi.
Yeah. Prajakta, do you want to add something?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, if nobody else has anything more to say, then we can stop at this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anjali, really hope things get better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you all then. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Should we stop the recording?